or an email to Mr. Whitehead, who is the chief appraiser for Fort Bend County. I asked him, and I have not got a reply back from this yet. I said in there, and now the state caps at 10%. The state says that you can collect up to 10% on homesteaded properties. Now, if your house isn't homesteaded, then you could be
whatever the market bears.
I get so worked into this. I'm purposely here trying to clean up my language as I go. So many words I'd like to use that, of course, I'm not. But you could be a little bit this way, so we can. Sure, you could be, taxed 50%, 100%. I've seen some insane numbers, but the state says 10% is the cap on a homesteaded property. My question to Mr. Whitehead was, although you are allowed to appraise up to 10% increase per year, are your hands bound to? Are you required to? Granted, it is just a constant circle of pointing the finger, but the state continually puts the burden of responsibility into the lap of the county. So my question to Mr. Whitehead, which again has not been answered, is, although you repeatedly state that you're valuing homes at market value, if you set the market value, who is there to determine whether you are operating as you should or not? Why, to break that down in simple terms, he could theoretically walk into your home right now, look at it, and go, $700,000, and walk back out, based off of that alone. So I keep coming back to where is the entity that looks to him, and apparently the comptroller audits the CAD office every 2 years. But I tell you what, let's say the comptroller and the CAD office, they're good buddies. They play golf together. They walk in, they look around, you sign this, you sign that, you sign that, and they're back out the door. I find it hard to believe that these audits are that extensive, that they're really that useful. If the comptroller is auditing, how many counties are in Texas?
In fact, they said that the comptroller came and audited, and they were 94% percentile of the state. So they had to raise more this year to make up for the 100%.
I actually looked up the revaluation plan for the Fort Bend Central Appraisal. If you Google the actual Fort Bend Central Appraisal District 2015-2016 reevaluation plan, you can see some of the highlights, and it's a PDF document that you can pull up online. And I think it would be important for homeowners to actually look at the data, see what's there, and as you can decipher the data for yourself, you can start to get a picture of how the system is actually structured, so that you are provided with the illusion of due process when there really is none for a residential homeowner.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about escalating Fort Bend property taxes, and I'm Dr. Nick NIKAM. You're listening to 1050 KCHN Nick NIKAM Network Talk Show. You can join in the conversation by calling us at 281-745-4161. This is being videotaped, so we will put it on our Facebook and websites for those listeners who are not able to catch it on the air. Nonetheless, if you'd like to join in the conversation, the number to call here is 281-745-4161. Okay, let's talk about what an individual can do, because this whole presentation is about helping individuals. Okay, an individual got, his property was worth $450,000, now it's $500,000. What are the different options? I went to the Fort Bend County appraisal. They said, okay, you can go before the review board, or you can go to an appeals court, or you can file a lawsuit, or we can hire a law firm to represent you. Give us a little overview of your experience with all these different modalities. And Allison, you can also join in and explain to the public as to what are the pros and cons of all these different approaches?
Well, speaking as a residential, broker, I deal with, I've handled my own protests before, and I've actually taken the CAD to arbitration and won before. Last year I took the CAD to arbitration and lost.
I see.
I basically got the market value of my property reduced, but the capped value was lower than that. So basically at the end of the day, I received no relief whatsoever. Now, as far as a homeowner, you've got basically, 2 or 3 options. If you can go in and do your informal protest, that staff member from the CAD may or may not agree to lower your value. Okay. The next step, of course, is your appraisal review board, where you have a supposedly independent hearing, to reevaluate.
But we know it is not an independent body representing both
independent in the
interests of
sense
both
that
parties.
they also have an inherent conflict of interest in
That's
their
right.
compensation structure. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you do not agree with the appraisal review board's valuation as far as determination of market value, you can then go to binding arbitration, or you could have the opportunity to go to district court.
Yeah.
Okay. As a residential homeowner, the option of going to district court is vastly more expensive than most people are willing to bear. Okay.
Absolutely.
And that being said, there's also a caveat. If you're going to go to district court, your really best avenue of success, in my view, is looking at the actual data, is that you would utilize Section 42.26 of the Property Tax Code, which deals with the remedies for unequal appraisal.
Yeah.
Okay, and in order to be successful in that venue, I think you have to be a large commercial property owner with a lot of the undisclosed sales data that they have the tightly held grip on. Okay, you as a residential homeowner, the CAD can see most of the sales that are easily available in MLS. Okay, but for some of these large commercial properties, there may not be a good comparable sale for that particular property, and that's the reason I sent you that particular dissection this morning.
I said, yeah, we're going to look at it. In fact, I was doing some research also, and I found out one of the leading law firms put some statistics on their website, which was quite interesting, that is only 78% of the Fort Bend residents ever go for a hearing or arbitration or anything like that. I mean, that's a very small percentage. And that means 90 to 93% of the people never contest the
Well,
the
is that 7 to 8%? Is that those who go to an ARB, a review, or a hearing, or is that those who actually protest or appeal? Really?
Really?
Any type of protest.
Okay.
So that's a
That very much surprises me. I must live in honestly,
Yeah.
a very active protesting neighborhood.
I
Because
see.
where I live, I would venture to say the numbers has got to be as high as 75%.
Yeah, well,
So we
maybe
must
you got
really,
a more
I know.
educated neighborhood.
Well,
And that's
and that
quite
could very
possible.
well
That
be.
makes a
And
big
that's part
difference.
of what's unfortunate. I mean,
Yes.
this is not the kind of thing that's taught to you in school.
That's-
You don't graduate high school, manage to make enough money to buy your first
I
home when
know.
you're 24, and then know, hey, I don't like my taxes, and there is something I can
know.
do about it.
I think that's an excellent point that you mentioned, Allison,
And
and
another
it goes back to the obfuscation and distraction argument.
Right, sure.
And the other thing I also found on that website is that, like they said, they save like $3 to $4 billion worth in property values and all this. I'm sitting here and thinking, if a law firm can go and across the state, if they can reduce the property value by $3 to $4 billion, that means these properties were over-evaluated by the state systematically over years. And why are we being subjected to this over-evaluation to begin with? Because we know by fact that these property values were brought down. As a result, it caused a lot of grief for the property owners. Number two, you have to go through a legal system, which we're going to talk about, to get your property value reduced. Then you have to pay the legal firm
That's right.
their fee, 30% of whatever it is, and the property value is reduced.
Well,
And-
that's right, Nick. You have people that are struggling right now. They're deciding, can I pay my taxes or do I eat? And there are people in Fort Bend County.
Yeah.
There is an illusion of Fort Bend County that it houses the wealthy.
Yeah.
It has a large percentage who I wouldn't pretend to deny otherwise. But you also have those that live in 900 square foot, 1930s built, $50,000 on its best day property. And when they get an increase, they're asking themselves, can I afford to, is it a bologna and ramen noodle soup month, or do I pay my taxes? Now, if I don't pay my taxes, I don't have nowhere to potentially make my ramen and bologna, so I better pay taxes. So they certainly don't have the money, the extra there to go hire a lawyer, pursue those avenues. You're talking about people that are looking for an extra $25 a month, the way one of us might look for an extra, $200 a month, or even $2,000, depending on who you are and what's in your pocket.
Absolutely.
So they certainly can't afford, and that's assuming if they could afford it, many of them still don't know the avenues to take. And let me assure you, the Fort Bend County Appraisal District is not going to be the one to point you in that direction.
And that's a very excellent point, and I'm glad you brought that up because it speaks to the regressive nature of the actual property tax system. Because I looked at the data in my own neighborhood in the city of, or actually Katy, the subdivision of Katy itself, to see what the disparate impact was in several different neighborhoods. And you can see, if the mass appraisal system by design is shooting as a baseline average, so by default, A lot of those more expensive trophy commercial properties, or probably even residential properties, might be undervalued versus the stuff on the lower end, if they're shooting for the baseline average, could be overvalued. That means that middle class homeowner is paying a larger percentage of their income in property taxes than a more affluent homeowner.
Okay, let's continue with this conversation. And the middle class Fort Bend County residents like you and me, who are paying these taxes, and we go to the ARB, obviously we are not going to get a favorable response, and even if we get, it's like a very, very small percentage. What other recourse do we have, I mean, as an individual?
Educate yourself. See how the system is actually operating. Open your eyes. And I don't know if I can say this on news, or I mean, if I can say the word damn. People need to start giving a damn. If you do that and you start looking at the information and pull that data for yourself, file an open records request with your Central Appraisal District. See what is actually going on with the suits data. See what is actually going on with the arbitration data. And this is an important point, and this is a subject that I had a discussion with our chief appraiser this week. Make sure you get your hands on the original notice values that Fort Bend Central Appraisal District is issuing to some of these owners. Okay, you want to get your hands on those original notice values, because as the example I provided you this morning shows, okay, what happens for some of these commercial property owners.
Go through this one.
Sure, this is an excellent example of how the buck gets passed. This is actually for a property that's in the Telfair commercial strip, I believe. This is for an H-E-B grocery store. And I actually got this data this week as far as the actual final settled value. This is for fiscal year 2014. The original notice value from Fort Bend Central Appraisal District last year was $18,078,000. Okay, the ARB reduced the market value on that property, okay, to $14,539,000. That case was settled last month in district court for $11,750,000. That was a reduction from the original notice value of 35%. Okay, so in other words, if we apply the 3.28% tax rate, okay, 3.28, okay, that commercial owner saved $207,000 in property taxes just last year alone.
And you can't expect a 35% for an individual.
If you, as a residential homeowner, go and ask for a 35% reduction from the Fort Bend CAD, my personal experience is you would be laughed out the door.
This is not a fair property valuation or a fair playground when it comes to businesses
not
versus
equal players.
individuals.
Oh, not even close. Not even close.
And Nick, you asked us a moment ago, what could people do? In addition to that, very simply, if people would log on and go to FBC Appraisal District Protest. That's on Facebook.
I see.
So search FBC Appraisal District Protest. Like us on there, or request to receive an email. What we're trying to do also is raise numbers. There is strength in numbers. Everybody knows that.
Excellent
there just
point.
is. I mean, I have a voice today as a woman because of strength in numbers.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's just so many, and people of color, and different. There's so much truth in that. So if we can get more and more people on board, so for those who are overwhelmed by the complexity of all of this, and then say to themselves, I really don't understand half of it, I'd like to, and you start, you can learn as you go. But if you're so overwhelmed by the possibility of learning about this, then simply go to that Facebook page.
Absolutely.
And if you will request, give me your email on there, I plug you in, I will send you an email once a week. And this is preparing for the next protest. There will be a second. Provided there's a decent turnout for that, there will be a third and a fourth. I only say provided because I do have an extremely busy life outside of this. And if every time there's a protest, it's me and 10 other people, I could better utilize my time elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely right. Everybody complains, but when it comes to taking action,
that's right, Nick. That's
Exactly.
when
right.
it comes to taking action, they say, "Oh, I got to go here, I got to go there, I got to."
Apathy, yeah.
And then, if you want to reduce your property taxes, we got to take some responsibility.
Educate
ourselves.
yourself and get involved.
Yeah, that brings us to how we can collectively, as 500 plus 100,000 plus residents,